Hi, I'm Sylvia Vallis. I'm a Miracles Ambassador. I'm an international spiritual teacher and speaker and an author. And I'm so glad you're joining me today for the third in my little series of 8 essentials for easy manifesting as part of my Gems for Limitless Living video series. Now, the previous two gave you all about the power that we have, the creative power, the enormous power, and then how to focus it and start creating what you would choose to enjoy in your life, to creating your reality. So if you haven't looked at those, I do suggest you go back and check them, because it will make today's video much more meaningful to you. So today I've called it How to Use the Quantum Source Field. Now, this, as I mentioned last time, is a wonderful understanding that we've now got with today's modern sort of what I call spiritual sciences, and gives us extra tools, as it were, that make creating our dreams, our heaven on earth, as I call it, life, a reality so much quicker and more precisely, more perfectly. So, first of all, you need to have a specific goal, as I mentioned last time. And if you haven't done that, as I say, I suggest afterwards that you do it. Then you can practice it and doing what I'm going to share with you now. Okay, so what is this quantum source field? Well, in my book, which Holy Spirit gave me to write this year, The Miracle Effect, 4 Steps to Living Heaven on Earth Every Day. The way I was helped to describe it is pretty concise, so I think I'll read it to you so it'll save time. The quantum source field is the field of all potential, an aspect of the divine infinite mind or the universal intelligence where creation begins, and it's maintained as a divine thought. So it contains all knowledge, all information, and limitless possibilities. Think about that. There's nothing that isn't potentially possible within the quantum source field. And if you think of the word information, in the middle it's got the word form. You bring into form what's in the quantum source field. And if you have an aspect that you are working on to create, then it will do that for you once you have imprinted it there. So even though this field is far beyond what your finite human mind can really grasp, it's a field of divine consciousness that actually does respond to you because of who you really are, a spiritual being in a human experience form. So this intelligence records your serious intentions, which we talked about in the last video, very carefully, especially fearless decrees as well, which again is explained in my book and I will be covering in later videos. Then it creates forms that exactly match your focus, your really specific thoughts and your feelings about them. Imagine that. It's like the quantum source field is saying, your wish is my command. So your job is simply to observe the finished product that you've consciously conceived of or conceptualized and recorded in partnership with your higher self, and then bring it down into the material plane. And all you have to do is to maintain this conscious observation, what science calls the observer effect, until your outcome is replicated in physical form. The importance of this observation principle is, and this is a real big one in today's, from what we used to know at the beginnings of the New Age understandings, you're not projecting some unfulfilled desire into the future. As we know, the future never comes, in a sense. You are manifesting in the present what has already been created in the field of limitless potential. And herein lies a huge secret key to your success. So, the other thing, though, to consider with this observation effect is the fact that on the 3D plane, of course, we are subject to many distractions and energies of all different kind. I talked about vibrational frequencies in my earlier video. And so these can, unless we're aware of them and make sure that it doesn't happen, can dissipate the energy, and therefore the result may not occur even, or certainly be less than you would have it to be. So here's another little analogy. You'll notice as a teacher of 5 or 6 decades, analogies I use because it's a way of helping our conscious mind make the connections so that we intellectually know something. That's the first step, and we accept it, but then we know at a deep level of what to do with it, how to apply it. So the analogy is of a master gardener. And if you are a master gardener, you might plant seeds, or a seed for the time being, let's call it. And so the seed is like, in this analogy, the seed thought. Now, the seed thought you plant is what you're expecting to see from the picture on the seed packet. So, of course, the same thing applies. What you expect the result to be in your creative process is what you've imprinted on the quantum field. It won't be any different. Then what does a master gardener do? It tends. This is the attention that I mentioned in the previous video. You attend your seed. Now, you don't give up simply because you can't see anything happen for a little while. It has to germinate. Similarly, you be patient and you allow your creative seed thought to germinate. And then a shoot appears, and sometimes in a thought process, you might see a little sign that sort of says, oh, things are happening at a very tiny level. Now, when you have a little shoot, it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable to slugs and snails and all the other things that might beset it. It can also get choked with weeds. If you don't pull the weeds out, the poor little seedling will die. So similarly, you give attention to any negative thoughts. I spoke a lot about how 80% of our thinking, until we become mindful and change it, neuroscience says is negative. So you be very mindful and make sure opposing thoughts, oh, this isn't going to happen, this isn't working, whatever it may be, does not sabotage your process. And for any good gardener, of course, they feed their plants as it grows to get stronger and stronger. So again, you feed it with thinking about it often and regularly, as I mentioned before, so that you're giving it the energy, the attention for it to come into form more perfectly and more quickly. And then as it grows and it flowers, blossoms, or produces its harvest, whatever it may be, then, of course, you are grateful. You give thanks. And so it's a similar process with creating. So you have planted your seed in the quantum field of the finished result that you want to have as your harvest, shall we say, but you are very mindful of the process in between so that it doesn't get dissipated or simply disappear because you've not attended it in any way. So I do hope that that gives you a thought process to work with and to remind yourself, and also patience, remember. Keeping peaceful within yourself is always an essential with any process like this. So do have fun with this. Choose. If you chose last week and you've reworded as I suggested to make it very specific, the goal you would like to achieve, something that would make your heart sing, then imprint it now on the quantum source field. You only have to intend it, and that will do it, especially if you use the help and the partnership of your higher self, and then allow it to replicate in the third dimension. Believe me, it will. And if you don't focus on all the how-tos, but let miracles happen and your higher self partner you, as is explained, of course, in my book in more detail, but I will be covering all of these points in subsequent videos. So, happy gardening, and I do hope you'll join me again next time. Blessings to you and to your loved ones.